When a doctor gets out of medical school, he should have a knowledge of the various medicines that you need to give people based on their conditions. And the doctors will walk in, they'll take a look at the person, they'll ask them what's wrong, they'll ask them what their symptoms are, and they'll recommend a medicine immediately. In truth, the first thing a doctor should do when he looks at a patient is show kindness. The first thing a doctor should do when he looks at a patient is show love, show compassion, have an interaction that is based on love. Then the medicine is secondary, but you have to prepare the pathway for the medicine. And the pathway for the medicine is love. In this world, there are so many differences, so many different conclusions that people come to. But God has no differences. Truth has no differences. Justice has no differences. Love has no differences. Wisdom has no differences. Truth has no differences. Yet we live in a world that is overwhelmed by differences. There's differences of race, differences of religion, differences of caste, differences of nationality, differences of language. There are so many differences. And all of these differences create various emotional states within people. All of these differences tend to separate people from each other, separate people from truth, separate people from reality. Now, as individuals, our interaction is with other people. And in the same way that before a doctor prescribes medicine, he should bring love into the situation. He should bring kindness into the situation. In the same way, when we interact with other people, we have to bring love into the situation. We have to bring kindness into the situation. And we have to do away with the differences. Everything that we do that is different than Allah will bring about negativity. All of the qualities that we have that are different than Allah are going to bring about negativity. All of the positions that we take that are different from Allah bring about negativity. Allah is one and man is one. And there is unity in existence. And this unity has to be understood. Difference is the opposite of unity. So all of our differences create emotions that arise from differences. When you are in the midst of a quarrel with somebody, why does that quarrel exist? It exists because of love having left the arena and a difference of opinion, a difference of outlook, a difference of point of view. When we involve ourselves in disputes, when we involve ourselves with strong opinions, when we involve ourselves in differences, we create negative emotions. It's like if your husband walks in to the room and says, "Darling, you look fat today." Well, that's going to create a negative emotion within you. And that negative emotion happened because of a negative interaction. People have trouble dealing with negative interactions. One of our friends just had a very difficult situation. They were taken from their family. They were put into confinement. And what this does is it begins to attack your faith. It begins to attack your belief system. It begins to make you wonder if there is truth and if you're truly protected. Well, these things happen when things don't go the way that we want them to go. And if we insist on things being a certain way, when they are not that way, negative emotions arise. Now, as people, we have to begin to understand the nature of what wisdom is. It is our responsibility in this world to find God. But you don't go around looking for God. In order to find God, you have to find wisdom. And if you find wisdom, then through wisdom, you will find God. God is everywhere. God surrounds us. God is inside and outside, but we're not conscious of him because we aren't conscious of wisdom. And all of the difficulties that we have is because we haven't reached a state of wisdom in our being. We are dealing with the lower levels of consciousness, sense awareness, and intellect. In other words, we are dealing with the same levels of consciousness that animals deal with. Now, man is different than animal because man is capable of entering into wisdom. And entering into wisdom takes you to a different place. We need to understand that as long as we stay within our animal selves, our lower self, then we are going to have the difficulties of not getting what we want, being disappointed in what we have, striving for things that are unattainable for us, having lust and not being satisfied in that lust. And all of these things bring about negative emotions. The world is made up of the elements. We are also made up of the elements. We live in a shell of elements that holds our soul. We believe wrongly, until we have wisdom, that we are this elemental shell. We forget that we have a soul and that we are a light body, and that is the truth of who we are. So, as long as we are in that place where we see ourselves as this elemental form, we are subject to sadness and happiness and the fluctuations therein and the negative emotions that come from those fluctuations. So we have to begin to concentrate on what is it that ends our dependence and our attachment on this world. What separates us from this world and takes us to a place of peace and to a place of contentment? What is wisdom? What is the nature of wisdom? Let's talk about a point of view. In the animal world, up to the level of intellect, we deal with I, me, mine, myself, my needs, my satisfaction. And our focus is on those things. And our happiness and our sadness depends on whether we satisfy those things. Desire sends out a signal of need. The mind then tries to work through the elemental world to satisfy that need. If that need is not satisfied, we end up with negative emotions. And they come from so many different places. We expect our children to act a certain way. They don't act that way. We end up with a negative emotion. We expect to make a certain amount of money from our job. If we don't make that amount of money, we end up with negative emotions. We expect our political party to win. And if they don't win, we end up with negative emotions. We expect so much in this world. And when we don't get what we expect, we end up with negative emotions. This should tell us something. It's because of our expectations that we run into negativity. It's because of our expectations that we run into these emotions that harm us. Now, where do our expectations come from? If you take a seed and you plant the seed has two parts in it. One is what germinates, and the second part is what feeds the seed while it's germinating. You pour water on it, and then it sprouts. And soon it gets bigger and bigger, and a tree comes. And this tree grows, and it has branches, and it has flowers. And after a certain amount of time, it gives off fruit, has fruit. And this tree, from one seed, has hundreds and hundreds of pieces of fruit. And in each of these pieces of fruit are a group of seeds. So from this one seed that man planted, thousands of seeds are produced and thousands of pieces of fruit are produced. How much of this fruit does the tree eat? Why does the tree have fruit? Is the fruit for itself? Other than the seeds, which create more plants, the fruits are for the birds and the animals and people. Not a piece of it is for the tree. The tree doesn't need any of the fruit. The tree doesn't use any of the fruit. Allah gives, and He doesn't need anything for himself. He gives. And he gives without differences. And he gives without expectations. Do we give without differences? Do we give without expectations? Do we go into situations doing the best that we can without expectations? And are we capable of not reacting depending on the outcome of things? You see, man depends on outcomes when he is in his animal state. Contentment is not something that man has in his animal state. Contentment is far from him. And when you are not content, you have negative qualities. So man has to come to a conclusion sometime in his life that the things that I'm doing now aren't bringing me contentment. They aren't bringing me peace. They aren't bringing me stability. I keep repeating the same thing over and over and over, and nothing new happens. Nothing changes. What am I doing wrong? What is at the core of my misunderstanding? What is at the core of my inability to bring about a sense of contentment and peace within my being? And what's missing from us is wisdom. So we have sense awareness, intellect, and then you have judgment. Judgment is what concludes that sense awareness and intellect aren't enough for us because we are not animals. We are man, the highest level of Allah's creation. And to become that which we were intended to become, something else is necessary in our lives. And then we have to ask the question, what is that something else that is necessary? How do we obtain it, and how does it work? Well, in order to bathe, you have to go to water. And you can't just jump in the water. You have to rub yourself. You have to wash yourself. There's some effort involved in becoming clean. Now, in our sense awareness and intellect, we have over the years built up a very strong sense of self. We've built up a very strong sense of our own needs and trying to satisfy those needs. And we've spent a lifetime in the effort to satisfy those needs. Judgment begins to say, the way we have been going about trying to satisfy our needs is missing something. We've been doing something wrong. And what we've been doing wrong is the focus has been on ourselves, as if we are the ones who can be satisfied, as if there's individual satisfaction. What we need to do is turn towards a new point of view. And what is this point of view? This point of view is understanding the nature of Allah, the nature of his qualities, and incorporating that nature within ourselves. Does Allah see differences? In other words, does he see himself as different than his creation? Does he treat himself different than his creation. Allah gives his creation everything. He doesn't hold back. Do we hold back? Do we say, this is for me, this is for them, this is for me, this is for them, 3 for me, 2 for them, 5 for me, 1 for them? Is that our nature? Do we understand the nature of love? Do we understand the nature of mercy? Do we understand the nature of compassion? Can we look at humanity from the point of view of compassion? Can we look at humanity from the point of view of mercy? Can we look at our surroundings from the point of view of Allah's qualities? We need to understand that each of these qualities, and there are many of them, there's one God, there's one truth, but there's many qualities. Well, each of these qualities are part of that one unity of Allah. And until we understand how those qualities work, we cannot find peace. And we will be plagued by negative thoughts because we will feel that we're not getting our fair share. We're not getting what we deserve. We're not getting what we need. Things are being held back from us, and other people are getting them. All these negative emotions come up. Jealousy comes up. Hatred comes up. Feeling abandoned comes up. But if we lose expectations and exchange expectations for love, if we lose expectations and exchange expectations for mercy, if we lose expectations and exchange expectations for compassion and for justice, we begin to see things in a different way. If we lose our sense of differences, then we can find joy in others' joy. And when we get to that point, then the world is full of joy. Every time something good happens, it's part of our joy because we're part of that happening, because there is but one. So, in understanding that point of view, we can change our negativity into positive circumstances. But we have to understand that point of view. And then we have to incorporate that point of view into our being. But in order to be able to recognize those qualities, we need a mirror. We have to find a mirror to be able to see those qualities. Now, we all know we have hair, but we can't see it. We don't know what it looks like, and we don't know how to put it in shape. If we want to comb our hair, can we comb our hair accurately without a mirror? The point is, you need a mirror in order to see it. Well, if you have thought about mercy, if you've thought about compassion, and if you've tried to incorporate those inside yourself, you then need to see compassion and mercy in action so that you can recognize it in yourself. And this is the position of the Sheikh. The Sheikh is a mirror for all of us to be able to see the qualities that we've developed because they already exist within him. So that when you see mercy in action through the Sheikh, you recognize it and you say, aha, that's mercy. That's the effect of mercy. And this is the result of what happens when mercy is applied. This is the result outside of myself, and this is the result inside of myself. You begin to recognize what these qualities are and what these qualities do to you. So you come from the world and you step into the presence of the sheikh. The sheikh is calm. The sheikh is kind. The sheikh is loving. And all of a sudden, those emotions are picked up by you. Those qualities are picked up by you. Those qualities are transferred to you. And you feel yourself becoming calm and becoming loving and becoming merciful and becoming compassionate and becoming content. And then you leave the sheikh, you go back out in the world, and the world throws all its arrows and stones at you. You react, and then you're back into the mess that you were before, and you run back to the sheikh. And once again, you see mercy in action, and you see all of these qualities in action, and you incorporate them into yourself, and you become stronger in your adherence to these qualities. And that's why it's said that it takes 12 years with the sheikh to develop the qualities, because they have to take hold within you. How many years have we been working in the world, and have we become attached to certain kinds of things in the world? We've become attached to our religion. We've become attached to our caste. We've become attached to all of the things that separate us from other men. And we've gotten a certain amount of ego satisfaction from that separation, because it says, I am better because I am different. It's not true. Because you are different, you are causing pain and you are getting pain. Because you are different, you are unable to find contentment, because you're in a constant struggle to make everybody the same as you in their differences. You can't see unity. It's only when you begin to understand unity that you begin to have wisdom, and divine luminous wisdom. And essentially, this means detaching from all the attachments that we've accumulated in the world. Truth transcends religion. Peace transcends religion. True justice transcends religion. It transcends race. It transcends caste. It transcends nationality. It transcends all of these things. And until we get to the point where we transcend these things, we are not going to find true peace. Every attachment that we hold on to in this world holds us in place. When you have a horse and you want to ride him, you have to put a bit in his mouth, and you have reins on the bit. And that bit with the reins holds the horse in place. It makes him stop, or it makes him go, or it makes him go to the left, or it makes him go to the right. But the point is, the horse is controlled. So we are controlled by our attachments. We are controlled by the nature of our attachments. We are controlled by what those attachments represent and what those attachments want. So if we are tied to our religion, we are controlled by our religion, and we are limited by our religion. We are not free, and we can't become free because of the attachment to our religion. If we're attached to our nationality, same thing. If we're attached to our race, same thing. We're limited. And we have to go beyond limits. We must escape limits. We must go into that open space where unity exists among all of existence. We have to transcend every attachment that holds us to a specific place. We have to transcend every attachment that holds us to a specific point of view. If a point of view is other than God's qualities, we have to be rid of it. And we can't be rid of it if we hold on to it. So a big part of releasing negative qualities is releasing ourselves from being bound to the things that create negative qualities. We need to be released from expectations. We need to be released from needs. We need to be released from desire. In the same way that when a tree grows, that seed, which had two sections in it, disappears and becomes that one tree, we have to give up the two sections of mind and desire and become unified within wisdom. And when mind and desire leave us, that's when wisdom can go stronger and stronger and stronger. And this is a process. It doesn't happen in a moment. It happens over time, and it happens through a consistent will to understand the nature of unity, a consistent intention to cleanse ourselves, a consistent intention to become pure, and to let go of all of the things that we hold on to that are impure. We have to know what it is that's impure, and we have to know what it's doing to us and why it's doing it to us. These things are very often easy to comprehend. People have certain kinds of attachments to their children. It's called blood ties. And they are either uplifted or disappointed depending on how their children act. But can you get to the point where you understand that your children don't belong to you? They belong to God. And God is their true father, not any of us. When I was first with Bawa, my father was ill, and every time I went to see Bawa, he would ask me, "How's your father doing?" And I would report to him on the status of his illness. And then one day it came to me. It says, I have two fathers. I have the physical father, and God is my father. And if God is my father, then all is perfection. There is no illness. There is no connection to difficulty. And that connection is also for my father. My father is connected to that truth and that peace. When I understood that, when I saw Bawa, he didn't ask me how my father was anymore, because I had gotten to the point where I understood better the nature of my existence and my reality. And within that was my father's reality, my birth father's reality. We need to be able to make that leap from the world to God's qualities, from seeing things in the world as to the way the world sees them, and to understand them in the way Allah sees them. The world creates situations that are essentially based on elemental needs. And there are people who will tell you that all that exists is elemental needs, and the satisfaction of elemental needs will completely satisfy you and bring peace to you and peace to the world. They have a name for this. It's called Marxism. And the Marxist will tell you that if we can make everybody equal in the mode of production and the mode of income, the world will be peaceful. It's a lie. And that's why it's never worked. I have a friend who came from Russia, and he understood, he lived during communism, and he understood the insanity of the communist system. And he has a daughter, stepdaughter, who was raised in the United States. And she was very, very left in her leanings and was Marxist in her overall point of view. And he explained to her all the difficulties in Russia and all the difficulties he had when he was there. And he said, "How can you believe this?" She says, "Well, Dad, please understand, they didn't do it right. We're going to do it right." You can't do it right because your premise is off. The premise is that the world can satisfy you, and the world can't satisfy you. And you have to begin to look for satisfaction within God and within God's qualities and within your connection to that unity with God's qualities. And it's only when we begin to understand that will we climb the path of wisdom, will we go on the straight path, and will we get to know satisfaction and contentment in our lives. Only then will we be able to give up our attachment to the world, because we have something better to replace it. Lust becomes replaced with love. Need becomes replaced with justice. All of these things that we desire become replaced with the effulgence of God's 3,000 gracious qualities, and they grow within us over time in the way the fruits grow on a tree. And as these qualities grow within us, we become more attached to hak, reality, and less attached to this world. And this is the path that we've decided to take. Why are we here? We came here because we've had a dissatisfaction with the world. We are here because we knew something was missing. There was a hole in ourselves. There's only one thing that's going to fill that emptiness, and that's understanding God, bringing God into our life, and bringing those qualities into us so that they become our qualities. And then we become that truth. And then we become at one with reality. And what is reality? Reality is God. And may it come to pass for each of us that we understand that truth, that we reach that peace, that we reach that contentment, and that we know hak, that we know all of his qualities, and that we are brought close to him so that we are considered among those who are his friends. Amin, amin. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.